Yeah.
That's
The NPR shtick.
That's what I did last.
Hello, welcome. Yeah, you were doing NPR voice last week.
I sounded very smooth last week.
No, it was great.
I'll say too, we had some comments from some of the listeners about David and I's interactions. I would just like to take this opportunity to apologize for absolutely fucking nothing.
We did. We were offered a Patreon slot if me and John fist fight.
We're drinking hammocks in my old Kentucky home. Kentucky.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour. This week I'm joined by my lovely co-host John Renane, Michael Muller, and we have two special guests this week, both from the same place, Gallant Fox Brewing Co. So I'd like to welcome on Roger Huff and Patrick Workman.
Thanks for having us.
Howdy.
I know it was a long drive over here from Clifton, so thanks for making the hike.
That's one thing nobody knows about Louisville. You can get anywhere in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. So,
Ish.
I mean, we got you guys on this week. We're back to guest format, which is awesome. Last week we did this kind of by the three of us, so I think that was enough for everyone.
Glad to be here.
So if you want to see all these lovely people together, you can visit our Patreon online and you'll get a full, beautiful 4K video feed of everything that's going on today. And you can see us all waving here.
I don't know that anyone wants to see us all in 4K.
I do.
And that Patreon link for those listening is www.patreon.com/kycommons. $3. It's $3 a month, guys. Just either do that or rate us 5 stars. Either way, we'll be happy.
We're both, you know.
Yeah, it's preferred.
We'll take any review, but 5 stars is preferred. So anyways, getting into Gallant Fox, we want to talk a little bit about you guys. What art? I mean, we've known about you guys for a while. We've done a lot of fun projects, but we want to hear it from the horse's mouth or the fox's mouth, if you will.
I think both are appropriate, right?
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, again, for having us on here. So, you know, a lot of people, I think, have heard our story. We've been talking about it for the last 2 years. So the cool thing about being here in Brewgrass is that this is one of the places that kind of helped give us our start over the years. Patrick and I were very regular patrons of Brewgrass coming in as we started home brewing, even before we brewed under any kind of name. You know, it's good to be back. So for those who don't know, Gallant Fox, a little bit of history about us. We started, Patrick and I started brewing together when we worked together in a day job. Patrick IT, me in marketing, and we just both found out that we both home brewed and thought it would be fun to do it together. Started brewing some beer and, you know, progressively it started to taste palatable. And then it started to taste good, and then of course, as all things happen, my wife.
I would actually say it was always good.
Hell yeah.
I don't remember a bad brew that we ever did personally.
Yeah, that's true. So, you know, as things started to get good, my wife kicked us out of the garage. As all things go, we decided to get a bigger space so that we could brew. And in the winter of like 2017, we set out in one of our cars. I don't remember which one now, but we were looking for places up and down Brownsboro and in the Highlands, and just came up on a place in Clifton. And one thing, it was an art collective building, and one thing led to another. And a few months later, we started brewing in an unconditioned 600 square feet in the back, and we had a conditioned 300 square feet in the front that we were doing poker nights in. And as more and more, to, you know, keep the story a little short for the listeners, as more and more space in the building became available, we started having conversations about making it legal and, you know, in a commercial space and getting licensing. And And of course, we decided it would be amazing to open during a global pandemic. So in April of 2020, we opened our doors to 4 people who decided to come in and try our beer.
Those are 4 very brave people.
That's right.
A lot of obviously like most people who end up in the commercial beer like industry and stuff start out as like home brewers, just like you guys did. But of all the like Louisville breweries and things, you guys, to me at least, to my heart, the homebrew store dude, you guys have the most kind of like homebrewed business. Like it really truly was your all's passion project. You had to get it out of the garage. It was something you guys both enjoyed doing together. Every kind of brew buddies team at some point says, you know, we should start a brewery. But you guys didn't kind of go crazy with like $1 million. You guys really did do it like piece by piece, like, you know, sweat equity and bootstrapping and just like. So I just hats off to you guys. I love that business model, and it's not the easiest to do, but especially kind of I talk about this sometimes too. People who opened up during COVID, I think, are going to have the superpower of like knowing how to be lean and knowing just like how to know where dollars are going out, where dollars are coming in, and more importantly than anything, just building up a community. You guys have been great about that. Has that been conscious, unconscious? Is that just kind of how it happened?
Yeah, you know, a little bit of that is just our experience with marketing, I think helps, right? And the ability to get people in the door when nobody's coming in the door. But I think you bring up a really good point, and Patrick can actually talk a little bit more about this, is just how organic everything was. You know, we didn't go out and price big brewing equipment out. We literally
I think you guys had a fermenter that you're like, oh shit, this is too small.
Everything was too small.
Yeah, we had a 1-barrel system.
That's a lot of brew.
We never even really planned on opening the brewery as it exists today. It was literally, as Roger said, it was an art collective, and I think the story is a better building opened up somewhere in Germantown. So all of these tenants that had, like, you know, there was a guy that had just a room and he handmade jewelry, and another person that was in where our brewing equipment is now, who did something with like porcelain. And all of these tenants vacated right around the same time. And so, you know, our landlord was anxious to do something with the space. So we got good terms. Next thing I know, without even a business plan, with not any really deep thought into it, we're signing a lease on all these rooms, and we're in there with a sledgehammer.
The business
a few days later.
Work as hard as fuck,
you know,
every
knocking
day.
walls down,
Yeah.
painting ceilings, I mean, the original Gallant Fox was 100% sweat equity and drained 401ks.
Hell yeah, man.
Correct.
I can sympathize.
So,
Did you all, like,
and that helped. I mean, it did help when the pandemic hit to not have a lot of debt overhead.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You know, and I think for better or for worse, I think there were other people who weren't in that same situation, which is kind of sad to see. But as a lot of other restaurants in the area benefited from a lot of equipment hitting the market at the same time, we benefited from a lot of brewing equipment going on the market. So we were able to upgrade to get some larger fermenters and get some stuff that we probably wouldn't have got for what we got it for. And I mean, we have been everywhere. We've driven to Charleston, South Carolina to pick up bright tanks. We've driven to St. Charles, Illinois.
Mhm.
Is that where it was? To pick up two
St. Charles,
fermenters.
Detroit for the
Detroit,
brew system that we're using currently.
So are these just all like on Facebook Marketplace?
No,
or
there's actually a place, probrewer.com. Shout out to ProBrewer. Is a marketplace for brewers. And so you can find stuff as kind of as small as 1 barrel, is really about as small as you can find. And it's separated. There's a whole used section of people. A lot of it is
You can find a lot of crazy shit on there too.
Oh,
Like
tons. You can find
from like the 70s,
Yeah,
like some
like-
cold pipe.
someone the other day was selling like 60 barrel foeders, and I'm just like, and they were going relatively cheap, and I'm like, well, I have nowhere to put that, but you know, interesting. So, but
It might take a month of brewing nonstop to fill that up
correct.
on our 3.5 barrel system.
But
Sorry.
no, but I think
Technical difficulties.
if you were to look at the space that we have now, it really does look like there was a lot of thought put into like detailed thought put into
That's a good way to put that.
how the space is set up, because it seems it has a good flow. It's all based on like what we acquired in the building at what point. Where it's like, okay, we're taking this out and we need this, so we're making this space our brew space. And
95% of our equipment is used.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even our walk-in cooler came out of a it a Subway?
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars.
Really?
We have a Little Caesars walk-in cooler. We have a
Not
we have
apologize.
a 3-vessel sink from a Subway.
That's right. The 3-vessel sinks from Subway, and the one that came out of Oxmoor Mall.
Nice.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So it's a lot of diligent looking and being a little bit frugal with what we do. And like Patrick said, we didn't put a business plan together. So when we went to open our second location and they asked for a business plan, we were like, but we know what we're doing. Like we'll just
First
build,
one
We
worked
did-
out
we did
fine.
this.
we'll just build it.
The
Right?
plan is just
I
do
got
business.
this great plan. It's all up here. Just trust me. Just trust me.
It's fine. We got this.
Yeah. Well, the bank made us get a business plan.
Yeah.
Silly bank.
Yeah.
We're professionals. We bought half of this stuff online.
That's right. Can't we do that again?
Well, one thing that we wanted to do as we kind of look forward to these different expansion plans and what you're doing to the tap room in Clifton and Mount Washington there is also just kind of look back for a second of where you've come. And one of the things that we thought of when we were thinking about that was the very first time we did a collab beer with any brewery was with you all. And that was a beautiful beer named Cinnamon Toast Busters, which I still have a can of. So
.jpeg.
let's see how this beer has turned out over the last
Year and a half.
14, 15 months.
All right.
The cinnamon toast really adds like a nice terroir. I think that was like that was 2 years ago. So that was like the 2020 cinnamon toast
Still
crunch.
sounds good. I
Oh,
like it.
So the can is basically caution tape.
Was that a Kinsey?
Yeah,
graphic
Kinsey.
design? Shout out to Kinsey Bernhard, Boys Are From Marsden podcast.
That's right. She did a great job on this can. She was a bartender, and she helped us with marketing and digital media a bit, and did some of our labels for us. So
But it's got what
if you're
resembles-
listening down in Austin now, good luck at Austin Brew Works.
Hell yeah! Shout out Kinsey.
Yeah.
This
Cheers
was
to
kind
that.
of a wild beer. You guys want to take us down a trip through memory lane on all of the different crazy adjuncts that we put
Oh
in
no,
here?
David gets this. David gets the pleasure of this.
Yeah, David, what's on the
Oh,
can?
thanks, yeah. So the can, like I said, resembles some kind of like caution tape, and then it's got a crazy little cinnamon toast guy with his tongue out. Also,
He's like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but-
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
but with a censor sign in front of it. So.
Yeah, this is the Ghostbuster logo, right?
Yes.
It's the,
Yeah.
But
it's
the toast buster,
the Toastbusters,
the
right?
cinnamon.
Where did we
right.
make? Was it Intellectual Pooperty? It made their site.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did well.
One of those.
we did well. We did well in
Maybe it
ripping
was-
off enough to make a famous rip-off Instagram account.
That's right.
There's just so much going on between Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Ghostbusters. It's a lot.
And those peppers are
The
strong.
peppers
on
I was
that.
about to say the
Yeah,
pepper
yeah.
is
Yeah, so what
very
was-
prominent.
What was it? It was a
inspiration-
Pasilla.
but it was roasted pasillas, right?
Oh man, this is better now than it
I was about to
then.
say
I haven't had it yet.
Me neither.
this
So-
is
so
delicious.
Read us the adjuncts and then we'll do our 10
this
second
is-
tasting notes.
Yes. So
Really
this,
held
this
up
is
well.
a giant beer
Is,
that we made.
Next time we make this, we'll just hold it for a year.
Yeah. yeah.
Well, or we could put it in a barrel. But what we actually made here was a golden stout, which is a stout that you use primarily light malts in without any dark malts. We added a metric ton of cinnamon toast crunch cereal, pasilla peppers, cocoa nibs, vanilla, and coffee beans. Pro tip: if you are going to add pasilla peppers, just use a few. So
Which is what we learned.
Yes.
Also, shout out
Also
to Heine
don't-
Brothers.
toast them in the oven because
So
they
it-
will be hot and burn the whole.
It's a
Not-
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful light brown. Nailed it on the color. It's probably a little dark for what you would call a white stout, but with all the crazy shit that got put into
Brown?
this beer.
Are
I
your
mean, what
glasses-
would you call it? Copper. How
This
about
is
copper?
like copper and gold.
Copper and gold. Yeah.
We
We did call it a golden stout.
Golden stout. There you go. All right. Well, I take it back. It's perfect.
Yeah,
it's
it's
perfect. The nose is those toasted roasted peppers. It really shines through. It's really, really nice, like bright and
balanced over time for sure.
yeah.
No,
but you get a
I
hint of
love
the
it.
cinnamon in the nose too. I
Yeah,
think.
actually, I like this a lot more.
It's 10% too, that was like the deceptive part of all of it was
The cinnamon toast crunch and the peppers really hide that alcohol. It's-
yeah.
no,
So
that-
if you
it's
have a
great.
can of it, open it now.
You know what it reminds
It's
me of
hit
is
the
like
bell
a
curve.
churro. It's like a churro kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Or like
Mhm.
dessert at a awesome like Mexican restaurant.
I still get a ton of vanilla and coffee.
Yeah, it's there on the
It's
back
got
end.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, who would have guessed that was a banger? After
Yeah, I
You're
thought this was
sitting
going
in
to
a
turn out
can.
bad when you pulled that out.
And you guys
I
canned
thought
that
so,
just
too.
right off of the line, right? Were those
No,
hand canned?
those are canned off of.
Okay,
We have
okay.
a counter pressure
Okay.
filler.
Okay.
So,
Hell yeah. But that was you didn't run that through like a line. You guys filled those.
What do you? Oh, it doesn't. It's not our tap line.
Okay.
No. It comes out of. We have like a canning.
Because I was gonna say it's held up very well if you guys keep this by hand. Okay.
No.
And we've done another collab since then, a much simpler collab compared to this guy, but it was a Kentucky Common. Just pretty straightforward Kentucky Common. I always liked it though.
Yeah,
it was a
very
bump
good.
up though. It was a
little strong.
Yeah, a little heavy
No,
Kentucky.
I think it came in at 6%,
right
5.9.
about.
5.9,
5.9.
which I believe the style tops out
5.5.
5.5. Okay.
Those are just guidelines.
Yeah.
When you all were like homebrewing, did you ever pay attention to that style at all? Did you know about it? Was it something that was on your radar?
I think I'll let Patrick answer this one.
Yes and no. I started homebrewing in 1999.
Holy shit!
I was stationed at Fort Eustis. I brewed my first 5-gallon batch of beer in the military barracks. And back then, and for many years, I was just buying kits. I'd buy a box and it would come in a box and everything I needed to brew a whatever, pale ale was included. And then I think over time, I started building recipes myself. I was always aware of the style. Now, the style for me has always been a little bit of a guide, especially when it comes to like ABV. If I wanted something lighter or heavier, I didn't really, unless I'm sending a beer off to be judged, where those sort of paying attention to that level of detail is really important. It's always been more of a guide, especially with color too. Like, what is there a style for Golden Stout?
No.
I mean,
So-
I don't think so.
So yeah, if you're talking about the official styles like BJCP and some of the others that are out there, then
And major props. We shout out Leah a lot, but shout out to Leah for getting Kentucky Common, for doing a lot of the work. It wasn't just one person, obviously, but she really did a lot to kind of write the guidelines about what a Kentucky Common should be and taste like and look like. And she has strong opinions about it, which I think is awesome. And the one you guys made, push
was
the
my personal
guidelines,
favorite.
make it good.
It was my personal favorite.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
David was heavily involved in the process.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, if I recall right, he showed up 3 hours late to the brew day and was extremely hungover.
No.
So it's a little
Shout out
trail
to
meeting.
Scout and Scholar for that.
Yeah, I have people to blame for that, but
But you showed up. Props.
yeah,
I did text Moeller and say, if he doesn't get here before we're done with the transfer, it's
Yeah.
no longer a collab.
all I remember is showing up that day, and you're like, "Here, we just bottled this rum barrel pancake bullshit," and you're like, "Want some?" And I'm like, "How strong is this?" And I took a little sniff, and I was like, "I'm gonna go throw up now." Goodbye.
Yeah, you guys are always super fun to collab with, and thank you. Just kind of creativity again, that with that homebrew vibe is like something special. So you guys are great. Thanks for always being good collaboration partners, even if the collaborator is a little bit hungover and a little bit late.
We love it, man.
The spirit of the thing is awesome.
One of these days, I'll make it for a brew day.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh no, you're gonna have to get your boss to let you off for that. But
we'll see.
So speaking of growing, what I mean, you guys are growing like a weed in the Clifton tap room and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did. We've added about 400 square feet that we were using as office space in our current tap room, and we've ended up renting the rest of that building. So we have the entire building. So I would guess another, I don't know, 1,800, 2,000 square feet. That's sort of just in a demoed state right now. We've kind of put a pause on that while we work on getting our Mount Washington location open. It was just getting to be a little too much to try to manage both of those projects at the same time from a financial perspective and then just everybody's time.
So maybe talk us through, so we talked about how you guys kind of got your start. It's very organic. It's piece by piece. It's like, let's grow. We talked about how it's a much different to kind of build a no overhead business model, no huge debts. Now you guys are kind of like, let's go,
we got
let's
a little
take the
debt
next
now.
step.
Yeah.
You have a viable product. You have a good brand. You've kind of gone through, you understand the brewing business. You understand how to build these things. Does that feel more scary than the first time you guys opened the tap room, or does it feel just kind of more natural than?
It is definitely a little bit more scary. I think when
We should also probably say what you guys are doing. You guys are opening up a second location in Mount Washington.
Yes.
That's very, how many square feet?
About 5,000.
About
So
5,000.
it's twice as big, basically, as everything.
It'll end up being with the new additional square footage we have. The spaces will end up being
About the same.
Mount Washington may be a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
but not by more than a couple hundred square feet.
Okay. So that just gives the listeners an idea of what we're talking about. But yeah, go back on that train of thought just about how you guys kind of got there.
So when we first opened in Clifton, without having any loans or high overhead, no matter how bad a month was, Roger and I could have written a check to cover our really only expense, which was our rent.
Yeah.
Especially when we first opened and we only had like one employee. We could have sold 0 beers and just been like, oh, this stinks. Here's a check.
That's how Brewgrass is still there for 6 years.
That
I
really
understand.
won't be possible going forward. But, we bought a brand new 10-barrel system. We're going to have 4 10-barrel fermenters, a 20-barrel fermenter. I mean, state-of-the-art chilling, cooling systems, 10-barrel steam. I'm even going to have like a fancy conveyor. When I grind my grain, it's just going to be transferred over to the.
You guys are fucking bougie as shit
gonna be
now.
awesome,
Remember
man.
the homebrew days,
But-
carrying sacks of grain.
I always tell
They're
people
Gallant.
Gallant.
What I'm most excited about is the floor drains.
Yeah.
Which I do not
wow,
have
okay.
a floor drain now. So when I drain a tank, I've got to hook a hose up and run it 20 feet over to, the one little floor drain back in the corner of the building.
Oh, you're about to be a master with that little spray hose.
Oh man, I'm really pumped about that.
I really like Patrick, but floor drains changed him, man.
Yeah.
They changed
But,
him.
another thing we're doing in Mount Washington that I think will be part of our business in every location we do going forward is we're bringing in a restaurant. So full service restaurant. We've already hired our chef. We're going to start doing some pop-ups in Clifton where he's going to be cooking some of the items that are going to be premiering on our menu in Mount Washington. And then once we turn the project back on in Clifton to revitalize Clifton, we'll be adding a kitchen there too.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And when you think about the idea of what makes us nervous, I think 2 years ago, right as we were opening, it's been 2 years now, which is crazy. April 30th was 2 years. So that literally seems like 2 months.
I know.
By the way.
Yeah.
And a decade.
Yeah,
at the
same time.
Yeah.
But what was scary then was we've never done this. We've never owned a bar. I had some college bartending experience, but other than that, there was nothing really between the two of us, and we figured it out, and we figured a way that it worked for us. And that was scary when we first did it, right? Opening up your doors and having people review you on Untapped and on Google. And I'm proud to say, we have like a 4.9 on Google and on Yelp. And because we really do, our main focus is taproom experience and customer experience and how we engage and how people engage with our brand. What's scary now is that, while we're stepping into Mount Washington with bigger brewing systems and that doesn't scare me anymore. Running a bar doesn't scare me anymore, but we're putting a kitchen in and I don't know how to do that yet. So
It's a whole nother
that's
business.
that's a little scary, but I'll be honest, the city of Mount Washington, from the people who live in Mount Washington to the people who run Mount Washington, it's a humbling experience of how amazing everyone has been to us. They've waited. It was 2 years before we opened Clifton, and we heard for 2 years, when are you going to open? And then we opened, and then we decided we were going to open a second location. Now it's been a year of hearing, when are you going to open? So we're hearing it again. But it's been amazing. We're partnering with the city. We hope that we're a catalyst to bring additional businesses out to that area. Mount Washington's one of the fastest growing cities in the state. Bullitt County, as rich of a bourbon heritage it has with Jim Beam and with Four Roses, and all the wineries, you have Forest Edge, you have Villanova, has never had a brewery in all of the county. And you're talking about a county with 80 to 100,000 people. So it is, it's underserved. I think there are a lot of places in Kentucky that are underserved. And
Totally
this is-
agree.
Most places in Kentucky are underserved.
Yeah.
So we've just had, you think about that area, and I grew up in the south end of Louisville, so I speak from a little bit of experience. It's not the exact same, but there's a lot of parallels. And craft beer, it's grown in those areas, right? It's not always just the people who are in a rural area who are asking for, macro domestic. Now there's a lot of people who are asking, like, we can't wait until you guys get out there because we're ready to try all of the things you have, not just your lager or your amber,
Yeah,
Something-
last week when we basically went through the passport one by one and said, this is what Louisville beer we think is going to be in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the biggest points that we hit on is like, it's got to be beyond the city center. It's got to go out to the south end. So like you're
Gotta
bringing,
go to Fairdale.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up.
So like you guys are bringing,
Shively Saison is just like a number of years away.
I've had this exact conversation with Roger. I think my experience so far, and while we're not open in Mount Washington, the way the community's already embraced us, the way the city's embraced us, it's really opened my eyes to looking at, as we use the word underserved, other underserved areas. Because, after we get Mount Washington open, Roger and I talked about a third location. And before Mount Washington, we're like, oh, we should just open like a tap room somewhere in the East End. Okay, well, I'm not thinking that way anymore. Maybe, but I'm also, I very much asked Roger about like where he grew up in Fairdale.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time because, like, I'm gonna actually probably stop using the word craft beer because people at this point, there are craft beer lovers and there are people who seek out these like new beer experiences and who want. If you guys listened to our podcast a few episodes ago, like trying all that crazy shit from like Urban Artifact, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the craft that goes into it. And you guys make great novelty beers, like the one we just drank. But you guys that's a novelty
that's
beer,
a certified banger. That's a novelty.
But okay, so my point
I
is
drink that for breakfast.
that we talk about underserved areas. It's not like these people aren't drinking beer.
Right.
Like they're drinking just as much beer as everyone else. They just are used to what they're used to. Mm-hmm. I think that the new thing, and it's kind of what we're talking about, it's like not going to sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their favorite bar. Everybody has their favorite like watering hole in their neighborhood. Craft breweries are, I said I was going to stop using that. Breweries are the people who make beer, and the best domestic beer is the beer made in your neighborhood. Like
Absolutely.
the local watering hole. Yeah.
I think that being your area's go-to place for that, right?
Straight out of Clifton.
Exactly. Like we that's, we have 2 core beers for the listeners who don't know our brand as well. We have 2 core beers, and we have made in these first 2 years, we've probably made 200 different beers, I would say. Probably somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe 150. But we meet every week and we have discussions on what new beer, like what are we going to do? What kicked last week? What's moving for the time of year? And then, but out of the 20 taps we have, the only 2 beers that don't ever change are named after our 2 locations. So we have a IPA straight out of Clifton, and we have a golden lager called Golden Bullet, and soon to be Light Bullet as well in a couple of weeks that we just brewed.
Nice. All right.
By popular
Segue.
demand. But I think that it's an ode, to the areas that we're in because they've supported us so much. Like we're the bar, right? Like we're the place that people come and hang out. And, if you can connect with your community, like we just hosted a Bright Side event where we had the District 9 Hollander came out, and we walked up and down Frankfurt Avenue, and we just cleaned the streets and had a good day engaging with the communities. And then afterwards, we did sip and sweep. So everybody who came out got a free beer on Gallant Fox. And,
That's beautiful.
and
that's what beer is all about. Like picking up trash, not that fun. But if you're doing it with friends and you're going to go share a beer together afterwards, like that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And you're engaging, people, I think we live in this era, and this, I've worked in marketing and digital media. I think we live in this era where people want to talk a lot about doing things, but not really
do them.
So like it's an opportunity to go do something, right? You don't always get to set those things up yourself. It's actually, I don't know if you've ever really tried to like independently volunteer for stuff. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
So giving people the opportunity to like volunteer and having some of that stuff, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought about being a big brother once.
Yeah,
You thought about it.
and then they ran a background check.
I'm only like
You host what podcast?
I'm only like 5'5". I don't know how big a brother I would have been, but
So
I can kind of consider you my big brother.
I definitely talked about it.
we've been talking about beer quite a bit, of course, but part of my background has been in spirits, and people are sometimes asking me, it's like, hey, I'm going to be coming into Louisville. What's a good bourbon spot to go to? Where can I get good bourbon? And one response I always have is, well, depending on where you're coming from, you probably had better access to bourbon wherever you are. However, there are a couple gems in Louisville, and I always throw Gallant Fox into that mix as well, because you all are a sneaky good bourbon bar. And that is something that you all pride yourself in as well.
By design, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we started, it's bourbon and beer first, obviously, because we're a brewery. But Patrick and I have, one of the things that while we brewed and we shared a love for was bourbon. And, it was not just trying to allocate stuff, but always trying to get like something that was unique and something that was new and sharing those things together. And, we've built quite the collection. Kentucky had foresight to pass the Vintage Spirits Act several years ago, which allows us to buy stuff that, like, if your grandmother, David, had an old bottle in her house that she had forgot about, as long as it was sealed, Gallant Fox can legally buy that bottle and put it on our bar. As long
That
as
sounds
we
like a very
register it.
specific example.
Yes. Tell me more,
David.
David.
You leave my grandmother out of this.
But with that, it's some of those things that where you're not going to get things through your distributor that are that are older or that are harder to come by. Now we can acquire them and we can put it on for a reasonable rate at our bar. We do a bourbon of the week every week where we take something that's hard to find and we put it on for a price that's very palatable. So I think I said this a few weeks ago when I was on another podcast, but we want to make beer approachable for bourbon people and bourbon approachable for beer people.
Yes.
Beautiful, yeah.
And
Which
I
is
think
great synergy.
Right.
If you want to grow your market, hit the people that already like drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of that is being proven right now with you all, because you just did a cool collab with I'm not going to say counterpart in bourbon, but sure, that boosts our profile up a little bit if I was saying counterpart in bourbon. So you all did some stuff with the Bourbon Pursuit guys.
Bourbon Pursuit podcast. That's correct. Yeah. So really nice guys. Kenny and is a regular.
Shout out Kenny Coleman.
Yeah, Kenny. Hey, see you on Friday. So, they came over. We've done a couple of collabs with bourbon companies. So there's another Good Times Bourbon is also another up and coming new brand. But Kenny and Bourbon Bourbon Pursuit podcast and his bourbon brand, which is now all over the country in Total Wines. They got picked up by Total Wine, but it's called Pursuit United. And they're having this weekend, actually, they're bringing people in from all over the country that are fans of the brand and promoters of the brand. And they're having something called Pursuit-a-Palooza. And Kenny and Pursuit United has really, and Bourbon Pursuit Podcast has arranged a really cool weekend for those guys for all the people who decide to come in, over 100 people from all over the country descending on Louisville. And they're taking them to different places in Kentucky where they can try bourbon and they can try their bourbon and other bourbons and just have a bourbon centered weekend. And part of that was he dropped 2 of the Pursuit United rye barrels off about almost 8 or 9 months ago, maybe a year ago. And we kind of collabed on what type of beers we wanted to do. So we just pulled them out of the barrels probably 2 weeks ago and conditioned them in our bright tanks. So we have we kind of decided, with their permission, to play on Pursuit United and the whole Pursuit label. So both of the bottles, we have one that's called Tropical Pursuit, that is rested on toasted coconut and Tahitian vanilla bean. It's an imperial milk stout.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Clocks in about 12% in those barrels. The rye gives it a little bit of a different characteristic than a bourbon barrel would give it. And then we have one called Late Night Snack Pursuit that we infused with
Pop like Spinelli's or something, or
chocolate cream filled cookies.
Yeah, I get it.
nice.
I don't want to end up on intellectual
Chocolate
puberty
cream.
again.
It's a good
So,
plug.
So you brought the tropical.
Should we try it?
Is this
We
something that we can
should.
open up?
We can.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. This does say island.
While we're
Island Pursuit.
okay.
That's what it was. Not tropical pursuit.
Oops.
It's
tropical
similar.
what? tropical island, David.
Tropical. Well, I mean, not
It's a
all
not
islands
a
are tropical.
desert island.
Island
That's
pursuit.
true.
That's yeah.
I would like to quote a famous Carl Jung quote here.
Islands in the stream.
So while they
I think
We
it's
are.
Kenny Rogers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got confused.
different Kenny. So
Well,
while
thank you.
they
This already
while they
smells
pour that,
delectable.
how many bourbons are available at the bar?
A little over. Currently at Gallant Fox Clifton, we have somewhere around 200. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. We put a new bottle on every week as we add to the bourbon of the week. With the expansion in Clifton, we'll be extending the bar back.
That's so much coconut.
And we'll be extending the bar back, and we'll be adding to that. And then Mount Washington will have an even bigger bourbon bar. And this is probably the first, unless you read the Pioneer News, which is the newspaper in Mount Washington, Bullitt County.
I'm gonna have to
I've
subscribe.
pitched them before.
Have you?
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you read that, you may already know this, but this has not been anything that we've announced. But that location will have a bottle license as
Nice.
well. So we'll be selling
Makes perfect sense.
bourbon bottles as we do bourbon picks with club memberships and different things. So we're going to get people. So the idea for us is do bourbon picks for single barrel stuff and bring those barrels in, age beer in them, and then be able to sell the bottle of bourbon alongside the beer. And they were both aged in the same barrel, which I think is
That's awesome.
something
Yeah,
that's
totally.
never really
Yep.
been.
It's an
Maybe-
extra way to nerd out and just to
Exactly.
appreciate things.
Yeah.
And just like I always tell people, like with brewing beer, just getting to taste things with different iterations helps you build your palate.
Right.
You get to kind of know what those flavors do.
Yeah. So I think it'll be fun.
And with all the banger food, it sounds like you're gonna. What I'm hearing between the bourbon, the beer, the food, the location, we probably are gonna be hanging out in Mount Washington quite a bit with you guys.
I'm just
I
gonna
hope so.
move to
Yeah,
Mount
I know.
Washington.
Hey, it's the fastest growing city in Kentucky, is what I heard.
Is there gonna be a club for Clifton? The Clifton Club?
Of course, yeah. And part of the plan in Clifton is to follow up Mount Washington. Obviously, we're putting the full kitchen in. The new chef that we hired. I'll let him talk. I'll let Patrick talk a little bit about Matt.
Yeah, so Matt Trimmer, he's been a longtime staple in the Louisville food scene. He's been at where has he been? He's been at North End Cafe, Parlor, North End Slice. He was most recently at Trifecta. He's one of those Muscle Burger Bar. He's just one of those guys that knows everybody, who's been cooking since he's 16, maybe even younger. And you know, it's funny. Roger talked earlier about the kitchen being the one thing he's nervous about. And I'm just going to say it's probably one of the things I'm least nervous about, because we've hired Matt. He's now on staff. And I've pretty much told him, I don't want to think about the kitchen anymore. Right?
It's yours.
It's yours. You
Hey
already
man, just
know.
going back to that conversation of growing a business, like you
Yeah.
know, one of the most valuable things Gallant Fox probably has is just like people who trust each other and know how to work together. Bringing in that third partner, we get a little bit of that in Ale Trail. You guys think we all hate each other, but we do get along. Like it's hard.
You know, I don't remember where I heard this little nugget of wisdom, but somewhere, some business book I was probably forced to read at some point. It's somewhere somebody was talking about how your team is only as strong as its weakest link.
Sure.
And so, you know, I pride myself on like all of the people that we hire are people that I can just wash my hands of that task, because I know we have really good people handling it. Mm-hmm. Everything from Roger with marketing and social media to now Matt with the kitchen, Michael, who does all of our distribution. You know, I love feeling confident in knowing that those jobs are handled.
And if you just look at it from like a economic standpoint or whatever, that's the only way to build a great
Right.
business is the person that you hire. If you're spending time and energy like micromanaging your employees,
That's not
that's
me.
you wasting
Right.
your own time and like it.
And,
yeah,
and if I have to micromanage you, you maybe weren't the right hire.
yeah.
You know, so
I mean, you said a lot of nice things about Roger and Michael and Matt. Does that make you the weakest link? Or
potentially.
Hey, but as long clearly the L Trail weakest link, as is pointed out every week. So as long as you're self-aware
Right.
of your link status, let's do some tasting notes on this beer. By the way, so it smells amazing.
I feel like the pepper beer was poor choice for first beer because that's all I tasted.
No, I don't know, dude. I smell
especially in the same cup.
So I smell pineapple coconut, but did you say there was rye in here too?
No, it's
Not this one.
There's not rye in the grain bill, but it was a rye bourbon barrel.
Oh, that's what I get.
right
I
now.
get that tannic kind of dry rye kind of caraway crispiness balancing that.
It's like a chewy coconut too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little bit of the vanilla bean.
Yeah.
All right, so tasting notes.
It's an almond joy.
Yeah, very almond joy-esque, right?
Sweet.
The coconut's there. The coconut takes the main stage in the flavor, but then it's kind of tempering out to that vanilla and it's kind of balanced. Then you get some of
Then
that
you get the
barrel in the
burn.
back of your
Yeah.
tongue. The rye kind of starts
Yeah.
to come through as you breathe. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
I don't get
truly special.
I don't get much burn on this at all.
Yeah, I get-
truthfully, where are we sitting at with this? I mean,
By burn, I just mean that tannic dryness.
okay.
That kind of dry coffee, woody kind of thing that comes on the very back of my tongue.
Yeah, we sat on these barrels. I don't, how long did we have these barrels? About 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
But we purposely didn't want an over-aged or an over-oaked beer.
Yeah.
So we only let them rest in those barrels for about 4 months, I think.
Almost 5.
Almost 5.
It's a great sipper. It tastes like coconut as it's just, I took a sip and it's sitting on my palate. It starts out sweet coconut, it dries out, and now all I'm tasting on the back of my tongue is like coffee and wood barrel. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that
Very well done.
The wood's nice, and I think it's different. You know, these are, and I'm not sure where these barrels will source from. I don't think it's Kentucky bourbon or Kentucky rye. So
It's from a tropical island. I
Yeah,
think.
it's from
That's what you
tropical
said.
islands,
Yeah, right.
it's from the island in the MGPs.
Yeah.
but I think that the wood, to me, it had a less bourbon burn and more of a toast, like the rye toastiness, which was nice. It was me and Patrick even talked about that. I said, this is not the normal type of flavor that we're pulling out. This would almost to me be like a toasted barrel, you know. So it was good.
The
Yeah.
rye isn't like super spicy; it's
Yeah.
more muted. But
That's
it
a good
has-
point. We did that one beer with the toasted staves.
The Maker's 46.
Yeah, you're right. There's
French
a
toast.
similar, I can't
Shot through the heart.
feel maybe, or something about that reminds me of
Are
that.
y'all allowed to say
Valentine's
that?
Day beer.
That's right.
I don't think y'all are allowed to say that.
What? That's a phrase.
Yeah. In
No,
Minecraft.
I'm talking about the where you got the staves.
Oh.
It's
I don't know.
all
Who cares?
digital. It was
Who cares?
it was a Minecraft thing.
Get that C&D or
It was
whatever.
non-fungible.
Yeah, it's non-fungible.
It was non-fungible.
They're not listening. It's just us.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And like you said, it nails that kind of thing between like bourbon lovers and beer lovers, which is like such a great gateway for people on both sides of the equation.
It just seems like every week somebody brings something on this podcast that is like deceptively 10-12%. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
yeah.
great, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
want to drink the whole thing. And then by the end of the podcast, I'm like, and we're done.
I drank the whole thing.
And then I start trying to tell you about how self-driving cars are going to revolutionize our economy.
So I have a, or I should say we have a, we brewed what I'm calling an Imperial Saison, came into about 10%, and then we put it into probably about a 4-year bourbon barrel that then had a red wine for a year.
Wow.
So it's an Imperial Saison in a bourbon barrel that then had a red wine in it, now has our Imperial Saison in it. The Imperial Saison prior to the barrel was one of those.
It was
Where?
fantastic.
That sounds
You know, when I took
And-
a sip of it, you would have never have guessed it was 10%.
It sounds like one of those beers that's like probably gonna cure like all diseases. Like it's like
Well, I
that-
mean, my allergies feel better.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I will say this: we can't say what the bourbon barrel was for that Imperial Saison, but I can tell you that, and give a shout out to some of our new neighbors and friends out in Mount Washington. The wine barrels
that's a good
came
clue.
from Forest Edge. So
Nice.
Forest Edge sourced them from a friend in the bourbon industry, and they aged their Ridge Runner red wine in it. So if you've had Forest Edge, by the way, Brant's and all those guys out there, fantastic individuals. If you haven't been to Forest Edge, go check them out. They have a beautiful space. They have a hop vino, a hopped wine that they do, which is fantastic, super interesting. It's something I didn't think that would be for my palate. That was really good. Their wine is super interesting. And if you're a beer lover and you like Gallant Fox and what we do, they're very similar in the wine game. They have like some spicy pepper wines, but this Ridge Runner Red barrels that we got were, I mean, when we got them, as we roll them into the brewery, we're still leaking red wine. There was, so this Saison that goes in there is going to be fantastic.
Hell yeah.
It's probably also not going to sit very long because of how much was in there. So yeah.
I might have been there that day.
Yeah, you were there that day, I believe. Yeah,
So speaking of like wonderful things, did you bring us anything for show and tell?
I did. I bought two things. So you asked for something that was beer related. Now I
That you
I
love.
wanted
Something that you love.
that I love.
That's beer related.
That's beer related. And I didn't want to bring Gallant Fox
Oh.
because, I mean, we drink Gallant Fox all the time, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
one of the things I haven't been able to do, me and Patrick are beer and bourbon guys, right?
Mhm.
So before we owned Gallant Fox, we had bunkers of beer and bourbon. And now we just make our own beer and put bourbon on our bar. So our bunkers haven't really gotten big, but they haven't also dwindled, right? So I have a lot of stuff. So today,
So I'm honest.
I have brought one of my favorite beers from Bull and Bush Brewery out of Denver, Colorado. It is called Royal Oil. I assume jokingly on the side it says cellar for up to 25 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
I hope that's a joke.
I think it'd be good for 20
You
years.
think so? It's a 13.5% strong ale, which is one of Patrick and I's favorite styles. Where strong ales, barley wines, ESBs, like we have a love for some of those styles of beer. So I'll let John open that up, and we'll drink some Bull and Bush.
Find some
It's-
conversation topics.
It's got that
Five
it's got that golden wax that everybody loves so much on every bottle they've ever gotten.
Don't
so,
cut yourself.
yeah,
It's not my
people
fault.
are gonna cut themselves.
Here,
It's
use
fine.
this.
Guys,
What
I'm a fucking professional. For the love of God.
you're?
He's not
that's-
going to
that's
cut
when you- that's when you cut
himself.
Ah!
He's
This is
going to cut me.
What's the
Um,
blood?
what-
This is as dangerous as
Which,
like opening an avocado.
Which year is this?
I don't know. You
I mean,
have to
come
look.
on,
I
just
think it's
come
like
on.
18, maybe.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So we're sitting on some aged
Yeah.
barley wine.
No, strong ale.
So, okay, but this is life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
life.
It's life.
Yeah. So Royal is these guys, Bull and Bush. If you've never been to the brewery out in Denver, super nice bourbon collection as well. They know a lot about that for a bar and brewery that's not in Kentucky, and they make fantastic beer. One of their other beers that I love is a stout called The Legend of the Liquid Brain. It's delightful. And
That's amazing.
They do that in vintages as well, but just super fun brewery.
I want that on my tombstone, actually. That's a good.
That sounds very like 60s sci-fi-esque.
One of them is like 8-bit digital label. They do the label different every year, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like the underside of the cap here has a 14er on it, Mount Wilson. So I mean, Denver. Like,
I've actually never been to that tap room before. I've been out there,
If
two dozen times, but I've
not
yet to
far
actually
from
go.
like Cherry Creek area, it's kind of like a older style, rustic looking tap room. But
oh,
it is-
guys, it actually says it's from 1971.
13.5% ABV, bottled 8/17/2018. It looks like, and then this is bottle number. If anybody cares, if anybody's collecting, bottle number 724. Cellar for up to 25 years, that's
which is
incredible.
ridiculous.
I love it. All right, well, let's put that to the test, eh?
Also, the top of the cap, I'm getting the Bull and Bush joke now. It's just two kids showing each other their genitals.
What?
Which
Seriously?
is, yeah, it is. It
Which
is. It
is
is.
hilarious.
You know what? I kind of
The-
respect that.
The fact that it's still their logo is
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
That was an unexpected, hilarious little piece.
Michael's turning red in the face. At
Nah,
that,
that
joke.
it's all this fucking like high ABV that we're drinking right now.
So the smell
this
of
one
this
smells
is
all of the
like
booze.
fruity. It's that we were arguing about like old ale, strong ale, barley
Yeah,
wine.
that's the
But
smell.
it's, to me,
Yeah.
that strong barley wine. How
Smells
it's
delicious.
fruity, plummy, raisiny, but mostly it's just like you can tell it's
man.
malty alcohol evaporating in your
Smells like malt.
face.
Let's have Michael describe it.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I mean, it smells like. Ugh.
Good call. Good. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So this is
I get like stone fruit, but also like leather and.
Sure.
This is not bourbon.
No, I mean no, but yeah.
If you
still
had your
get
eyes
leather.
closed and you sniffed it, though,
Yeah.
like you could be fooled. You could be.
This
fooled.
is so on the palate to me. I get a lot of date, like a
Sure.
lot of like that fig
Dried fruit.
date.
Have you ever
Raisins.
had fruit leather?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
exactly what it smells like.
That's
to
what I'm
me.
thinking of.
It's fantastic. I love that.
Like airheads, but fruit.
There's like a
Fruity, bright.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what is that taste? I'm
it's like a
getting?
mustiness.
bourbon. I've never had this beer. I know this is kind of like a not a whale, but I mean this is a pretty sought after beer,
Right.
Yeah,
It's a like almost a light, bright enough cherry to kind of be that like maraschino, grenadine, pomegranate kind of flavor.
It's
like,
no, what it is, it's like the artificial juice of any of those fruits that you just described.
like grenadine kind of
Yeah.
type thing.
it's not
Yeah.
sweet to me though.
Not sweet.
Yeah.
No, it's very good. It's
Thank
very good.
Indifferent, right? Unique. And that's, you want to have beers that, and that's one of the things, like, as we brew beer, we're always like, wonder what that would taste like. Well, guess what? We have a 3.5 barrel system. We can find out.
Let's find out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's like vegetal, but not in a bad way.
And you guys
get that.
are slowly, well, I mean, you've been doing it for a while, but you're slowly building a program to age beers for longer and longer and longer, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have more barrel space in Mount Washington with the larger capacity, but we are not by any means sunsetting Clifton Brew House. So Clifton, we will start. The great thing about a 3.5 barrel system is it's a great size system to fill a couple barrels, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think we'll start doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Patrick's our head. As Patrick and I brewed together, it became evident that we both couldn't do everything, right? And I think that the evolution of this is that Patrick is very, he's got a military background. He's very detail oriented and, very hands-on. Patrick
And makes really good beer.
makes
Let's
really
say.
good beer.
It's true.
Pat-
It is true. That is true.
Patrick did a lot of like the work, like the craftsmanship work in the brewery too. So if you go into Gallant Fox Clifton, like, the bar, even like the overhead, like light apparatus, like I don't have the skills to build any of that stuff. You know what I did? I hollowed out the lighting fixtures while Patrick built everything. Like I did the work that you.
Well, hey man, but then the other side of that is like, you can build, if you build it, they will come is not necessarily always true, because somebody has to be able to tell the story and talk about it, and like you guys have a great dynamic, and like
it's a good dichotomy. But
Yeah.
Patrick's taken over. He's our head brewer, and he's, he has taken the bull by the horns. He's doing, I mean, we're on a 3.5 barrel system at minimum. It's a 2 brew day week every week. And he is building out his team, our assistant, or I guess one of our brewers, Dale. Yeah. Shout out to Dale.
shout out
Carrico.
Dale.
We were supposed to have a brew day today, and I showed up around 9:00, and I guess Dale, I like to say he did a Dale. He decided to come in at 2 a.m. So when I got there to help with the brew day, it was pretty much done.
And they say that kids don't want to work these days.
Right.
Come on, Kim Kardashian. You get into the beer industry and you'll change your mind.
Yeah. And Dale is a full-time EMT firefighter.
Yep.
So he is working out of the love. Dale and I are fraternity brothers from college at U of L. And we've always shared a love for beer. And when me and Patrick were starting this thing up, he wanted to be involved in some way. And he had homebrewed with us a little bit. Me and Dale homebrewed a little bit as well.
You and him more.
Yeah.
I think I brewed with him once.
Beforehand.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, we had brewed some Aqua Teen Hunger Force themed beers at different times. And
David, I can explain that reference to you if you
Dale's
need me
good.
to.
Dale is an excellent brewer, and he's a hard worker. And I'm glad he's on the team.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I think Gallant Fox, we give people the opportunity to do things that they can do. We talked about Kenzie earlier, and she came in and she saw me working on labels, and she's like, I have some graphic design skills if you want me to help. And we're like, yeah, we would love for you to do that. Or, we have another bartender, Michael Hook, who is being trained as a cellarman right now.
Mhm.
So if you have a desire, Zach, who we just featured for our first employee feature last week on our Facebook and Instagram pages, he comes in and he helps can, he helps bottle, and he is now in control. He's been working in the bar industry in Louisville for a long time. He's now leading our cocktail program.
Because a brewery is also a bar. Like that,
Exactly.
and that's a totally different skill set than
Yeah, so
being a
he
beer
designs our new cocktail of the month every month. That gets added to our sort of library of available cocktails.
Hell yeah.
And
So-
last month we sold like 100 lavender lilies for Derby, and it was
Oh, Courtney had one of those when we were hanging out with you guys. Trail Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah, so-
great cocktail.
Yeah, he's making lavender syrup.
This
in-house.
month we
It's
have a peach. What is it? A peach
Paloma.
Paloma.
Ooh, yeah,
Ooh.
Palomas are delicious.
Yeah.
I love beer, but I've been really getting into clear spirits lately.
Oh man, I'm all about some gin.
I'm
I
a
love some
tequila
gin.
guy, but the clear spirits are making a comeback, and you guys did like a seltzer collab.
Oh, the seltzery.
Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so the seltzery is a relatively new spot. Maybe a little, probably newer than us. I don't really know.
Oh,
when
certainly
they opened.
newer. They
Certainly
were
Like in the
Okay.
last 9
Yeah.
months,
9 to 10.
6
Okay, so
months.
definitely newer than us.
But it feels like the
Patrick gets out quite a bit.
Well,
I've seen you out at West 6 before,
yes.
exactly 2 times.
I wasn't quite sure how long they'd been there, but apparently less than I thought. Anyway, I don't know who reached out to who, but we ended up doing a collab with those guys, and we did a blueberry. We ended up calling it a blueberry yum yum. It was basically a blueberry cobbler wheat, and we used their blueberry cobbler flavoring that they do with their blueberry cobbler seltzer. So I think the beer came out pretty stellar. I think we've sold out of it already.
No, we have one keg left.
Okay, we have
So-
a keg left.
And that actually comes from, one of the people we really haven't shouted out a lot on this is Michael Workman, our manager of sales and distribution, our first full-time employee ever, and salaried employee ever.
Mm-hmm.
Came on. He had a full-time job and he was a bartender. He worked at Drinkswell before.
Yeah, he's
and
another one of those guys that just like knows how to do what he does.
what he does. And
Yeah.
he actually approached us with self-distribution. We'd been talking about
Was he our first bartender?
other than Dale. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was.
he was. Yep.
So, and Michael kind of came to us and he was like, I've heard you guys talking about self-distribution. Like, I kind of really just want to dive into Gallant Fox. And he was already planning to divest from his day job. It was in insurance. And he came to us and he's like, what if I took over your distribution with everything that's going on now with self-distro? And we were like, oh, well, we thought we would do it ourselves, but yeah, like Patrick talked about earlier, hiring people who just have that drive. And Michael's really good. He's not great about following our dress code, but he is great. He is great.
I don't know, man.
He is absolutely great at building relationships with our customers.
But if we
Well, not
don't-
everybody can wear a tuxedo to
if
work
we
every day.
don't
Like you guys.
enforce the dress code, do we actually have a dress code?
Two things on that. A rule without punishment isn't a rule.
Yeah.
But also, NBA jerseys are fine.
What about NBA shorts and flip-flops? It's fine. Anyways, Michael's he's great. Seriously, relationship building, but fantastic. And he has completely killed the game on getting us into spaces around town, and
Which is a new game.
a very new game, less than a full year old.
Kind
I
of
think
could be a disruptive game, honestly, to the 3-tiered system, or to the, like we've talked about, domestic quote unquote beer versus quote unquote craft beer. Being able to self-distribute to bars and restaurants and to be able to sell kegs to people,
Right.
that's kind of huge.
crazy for me to go into a place and see our beer on, to go to, and not just any, like the great thing about doing it ourselves is we're not leaving our destiny up to anyone else. When
Let's explain this to the listeners too, real quick. So,
Okay.
as of a couple years ago in Kentucky, the way that our
1 year.
alcohols
1 year.
work, as of a year ago, you couldn't, if you are Gallant Fox, if you have a brewery and you make beer, even if you want to pour your beer at well, let's not go there.
No.
Even if you want to sell your beer at a bar, you sell it to a distributor. They sell it to the bar.
Right.
30% markup.
Exactly. As of the most recent legislative changes, thank you to the Kentucky Guild of Brewers and
The
to everybody,
passing of SB 15.
Yeah.
Yes.
you can now sell your beer directly to the people who are serving it to the customers or to the customer
So
in
the
a limited quantity.
Traditional hierarchical model of 3-tier where it has to flow either up or down through the 3 tiers is
Customer,
kind of been,
distributor,
retailer has been
brewer.
has been axed at the second level for local,
For breweries
Breweries.
up to a certain barrelage.
Barrelage.
Yeah.
yes, which is
And
it's
the
kind of
barrelage
high.
is
It's high.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's huge. There's the likelihood that many breweries in Kentucky would ever hit that level is very low. Maybe Alltech, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a huge amount.
It's like 20,000 barrels a year, I think.
It's something big.
But a lot of people have started using this model, and y'all are killing with it.
Yeah, we are. What it's enabled us to do is, let's say, first of all, we have really good relationships with distributors that come into our bar because we buy from distributors too. We have guest kegs, we have our spirits program, and some of the distributors, their salespeople are regulars, right? So Chris, who's our Bell's rep, is in all the time, and Erica from Beer House, and Gabe from Heidelberg. So they're great people, but if we were to sell through them, we go on a list with Rheingeist, and we go on a list with Bell's, and we go on a list with Urban Artifact. And when you go in, who are you going to sell if you're them? You're going to sell
your big accounts.
You're going to sell your big accounts. It's not, and then
the people who give you not free, but the people who give you merch and swag
and who have a little bit more pull. And,
it's basically the pharmaceutical industry.
Right. If you walk in and you have Rheingeist, like your Heidelberg, you have Rheingeist, even a company like Blue Stallion that's been around for a while, who by the way we buy Blue Stallion all the time because they have great beer. Interesting beer that fits kind of our profile. But if you walk in with those things, there's no marketing that needs to be done. Rheingeist has done the marketing, right? You don't have to educate people. I've got this great new Rheingeist beer. Whatever it is, they're like, okay, yeah, give it to me, right? Whereas you go in with a Gallant Fox beer who you haven't heard of. The great thing about Michael when he walks in is he can educate people. He gets to tell our story to everybody. He's only selling Gallant Fox beer, and we are sending him and having meetings with him every week, and we are identifying the places that we want our brand to be in.
Exactly.
Which is huge for us, right? Yep. We're a bourbon bar, so we're a bourbon brewery that has a beer brewery that has a bourbon bar. So, we're looking at places that align with that align with our brand, that align with like our customer demographic. So you can find us at a lot of places. Like, for the listeners out there, if you haven't had Gallant Fox beer, you can go to Drake's, you can go to International Tap House, you can go to Melwood Tavern, who has the best fried chicken in Louisville.
Easily.
Wait, hold on though. Didn't ITAP just close?
I don't know.
I think they closed.
Oh, wow.
Like as of last week.
What about all those coupons they gave us? Are those still
I
valid?
need to get some keg deposits back.
Jesus.
And
How
you
about just the kegs?
and cutting out that second level, I mean, you do make a little bit more coin on the sale itself.
So,
if you're going to send a keg out, you're not going to make what you're going to make in the tap room.
But
now we
have
have
you seen gas prices now?
Yeah, but now we have a van. We have to put gas in it. We have a
Nobody
full-time
told
employee.
you to buy a van, Patrick.
Well, you have to have a marked car. You have to have a marked car though.
You got to buy vans to make vans.
You can't do this undercover.
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
I'm
just saying.
Just throw some kegs in your Forester and just like ride around town.
But
Hey, would you like
believe it or
this?
not, there are regulations. All kinds of them.
Like
the inside of the van has to be like legally the brewery to be able to take it from like place to place. It's psychotic.
It's crazy. We'll digress from
that. Going back to a second ago, talking about like how, you're in a house of brands with Rheingeist and that's like the main seller. It's really interesting that you say that because maybe about 5 years ago when I was working in one of my first beer jobs, working at a distributorship, I was working for a Miller House distribution place and not in Louisville. Mm-hmm. And I was the craft beer geek on the team, and I was very new and I was very excited, and I was getting into all the craft brands, and there I was at a Walmart at 6 a.m. Restocking 30 racks of hams. And
I wish I could have known like bright-eyed beer Moeller back in the day.
He was a fucking nerd. Same now, but just even worse.
Ryan Berg said that once.
yeah. But it was really funny though, because I always just had a meeting and talking about like, but like this is the thing that I know, and I feel like I know it a little bit. Like I'm a little bit more tuned in, which I was. Like I was very comfortable saying that, and they're just like, but also listen, Miller keeps the lights on for us, which is absolutely true, and I get that. But it's really funny though that like 6 years later, you're talking about the same thing with like bigger craft brands, which is how far we've come at this point.
Yeah, what does craft mean, right?
Exactly.
What? Craft beer is dead.
Yeah, craft beer is dead.
So, I mean, but what does it mean? With the
Long
way
live craft beer.
Yeah. I mean, I love Rheingeist. The beer's great, but there's and this is something we've learned being a small brewery is that, the struggles that we have as a 3.5 barrel brewery are not the same struggles that a 10 barrel brewery has. And and they don't have the same struggles that a 40 barrel brew house has. Like it's very different. Right. And you have different things that you have to focus on. And, and the great thing, I will say this, the great thing about Kentucky beer is that everybody is so friendly and so open to help. every time we needed something, whether it's a bag of grain or we've had a question as we were, moving from home brewing to a little bit more pro brewing to pro brewing, and even as we're moving to our new system, everybody's been super helpful and super open as we've needed to ask questions. And now, it's interesting because it's that camaraderie now that we're passing on. So now there's a lot of newer breweries who are trying to do this something similar to what we did, like open with a smaller budget and build their own. You have to build it, and then you grow when you're allowed to grow. And the Guild has done a good job of pointing the smaller breweries our way. We've helped several new startup breweries who have come over and watched, this is perfect.
People ask me that all the time. I said, go drink a beer at Gallant Fox, go drink a beer at Great Flood, and just try to be nice and make friends with the bartender and just ask questions.
Exactly. And this is the greatest place to talk about this, because there's a difference between a ball lock keg and a Sankey D, right? Yeah. And how we fill kegs was completely foreign to us, right? Like, it was just like, how do we do this? It's not something we'd ever done before. So we learned it, right? And now we're imparting that knowledge on to someone else,
There's a huge level of education. I mean, you guys bootstrapped a lot of your operation, which I'm sure came with an immense amount of education that was just on the fly, but also, like you said, there's a great community to reach out to. But I'm done talking about beer, so I want to hear what you brought us that is not beer that you love.
Oh yeah, we're still doing show and tell.
Yeah,
forgot.
I brought Patrick.
Oh my god, he's so lovely.
That's a great choice.
I am the true gift here. That's true.
So we've established you're not the weakest link.
Wait, is
what have we
not
decided
beer?
today? I'm an awesome brewer. I'm the gift that keeps giving. You
And
guys
a team builder.
keep it coming.
And you were homebrewing when I was 6 years old, so there's that too.
Are you calling us old, David?
Didn't you brew on a ship too, on a boat in the Army?
No, I was stationed on a boat, but I never tried to sneak my brewing equipment on. I did take some homebrew with me.
I will say, you would think it would be hard to brew beer while you're in the military, but we're a homebrew store stationed, I think, closest to Fort Knox. There's so many people in the military that make beer.
No,
I don't know why. You could explain the logic to me, but there's a lot. There's a lot.
I know a lot of distillers who got their start brewing beer while in the military.
Service.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I made prison wine once. I wasn't in prison.
Juicy juice. Use juicy juice.
The juicy juice and
bread yeast.
You smash it up and then you put it in the bag and you tie the bag off. And I won't explain the rest. But
for the kids listening at home, we don't want to give.
Did you ferment it in the back of your toilet? Because if not, it's not truly prison wine.
No. We
Top
had
of
those
his closet.
Yeah.
So
we had fancy plastic containers. Okay, we tore the elastic out of our waistbands. Used that to tie it off.
Yeah,
I've watched 60 Days In. I know.
Well, we fermented it in 18 days, sir.
So as we wrap up and enjoy this last show and tell item that Rogers brought.
So let's talk about Vintage Spirits Act. We talked about that a little bit before.
Yeah.
So because of that, we're able to offer stuff that, everyone loves Blanton's bourbon because the bottle is ridiculous looking and has a horse and all the things, right? So we've actually brought offering that is not available in the U.S.
Wait, yeah, I'm just now seeing this.
It's 126 proof. Sorry.
So this is Blanton's barrel proof. So this is you'll notice the bottle is actually in US they have 750 milliliter bottles. This is a 700 or a milliliter or a 70 centiliter bottle. So this is a little bit smaller. Blanton's ships this all the way to the UK for us to bring it right back here, right by where they made it. And
the 7-tier distribution.
Sell it, exactly. Yeah. And sell it on our shelves. So this is from a personal collection at home, but yeah, and I had bought this specifically because it was bottled 3 days after my son's birthday, but then I found one that was actually bottled on his birthday. So
that's awesome.
I popped
So
it
you
up.
can just drink it now.
Exactly.
This is worthless.
Well, so
Is
this
it going
one,
to melt these
Wait,
plastic
so
cups?
what year then?
So this one was dumped in 16. So that's the actual bottle date, and it is 126.7 proof for the listeners. That's 63.35% alcohol.
That's not that much.
So I'm gonna let everybody pour them whatever they're comfortable with,
Let's
because
see
if
if it
not,
melts,
I will.
Roger,
melts this glass.
are the Blanton's tops?
The
Are they the same?
There's no letters.
This is an A.
An A.
Oh, I see that now. Okay.
They are the same. Now, the one that is different, the Blanton's Gold bottle, which is an offering that they just started allowing to be sold in the U.S., but was previously also international distro. The horse is actually bright gold on those.
Oh, nice.
So
it's
Follow-up question. Okay, go ahead, David.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, look at y'all.
It doesn't.
Go ahead, David.
Very nice.
We are being so polite
Go
to each other.
ahead, David.
I was gonna ask.
Oh yeah. Okay. No. Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Okay.
it's better to let this one air out a
This
little
is
bit.
a good bit.
I got totally irrelevant question. Was your son born on the 6th or the 12th?
That's your question. I should have gone.
That's
The
fine.
6th.
Okay. Fantastic. And how much time was this in sea transit?
I have absolutely no idea.
There once was a ship that went to sea. The name of the ship was what's that TikTok
The
song?
name of the ship. That's
The
C.
something of T.
Soon will.
The Weatherman come.
Yeah,
to
the Weatherman comes or whatever. I don't know.
Mike, is Kentucky bourbon basically the mafia?
I have no idea. I will say this: Kentucky bourbon is, and this is not a homer. Kentucky bourbon is the best. It's, while most of it is obviously
People
made in
say
Kentucky,
that there's you can make bourbon anywhere. It doesn't have to be in Kentucky. Bullshit.
Well,
bourbon has to be made in Kentucky.
No, it's
Yeah, it
not
does.
true.
No,
It's not true at all.
Yeah, it is.
That's not true at all.
If you-
Absolutely not.
it is true.
it's not true.
It is true.
It's not true.
If it's not in Kentucky, it's not bourbon.
Well, to you,
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you.
Fuck
But-
your shit.
from a legal perspective,
It's American.
Fuck your shit,
It has to be
Tennessee.
It does have to be American.
but if you have, and there's lots of different things, and I kind of equate this to the whole people who talk about like, oh, IPAs and they put hops in to preserve it, and that's kind of silly. And when people talk about, oh well, Kentucky has 4 seasons and it in and out of the barrel and all that stuff. Yeah, but there's a little bit of truth to that. If you don't have if your bourbon's being aged in Texas, we all know what that bourbon tastes like.
Have you ever been to
taste
Bourbon
good.
County, Tennessee? Me neither.
Wow. Okay.
That's deep.
I am standing up for all the bourbon producers all around the U.S. that aren't in Kentucky. And
I think what you get with Kentucky bourbon is you just have so much talent.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. It's
yeah.
the
So
culture.
many people.
It's the culture more than the product.
And the culture, and
Yeah.
you have so many distillers that it's hard to pass a bad bourbon
Yeah.
that's from Kentucky
Yeah.
because you just go out of business. There's too much good bourbon.
If
And-
you're a skier and you're from Texas as opposed to a skier from Norway, who are you betting on?
Is it like are you like,
Jamaica.
is that like you want to be the big fish in the little pond or the
Yeah.
little fish?
Yeah, but
you know,
but,
kind
but
of
the
thing?
issue with that comparison is that you don't believe that, in that instance, you're projecting the idea of like, oh, they must not even have, XYZ in Texas.
the underdog.
But they do.
They don't have snow in Texas.
It's just not as good.
This is just, I mean, I'm not going to win this one, but
100% not.
no. But I will say there's a lot of good bourbon out there, and it's not just made in Kentucky.
All right, so what does 127% bourbon taste like to us?
What am I wearing right
jet
now?
fuel mostly, but
No, it's very smooth.
I get it like
I'm wearing a hat right now from an Oregon producer. It's very good. Shout out
It's a good hat.
Shout out New Basin.
booze, honey, barrel is the aroma to me.
So here's a not a very typical opinion. I'm not a big Blanton's fan, so the mash bill that they make this with is not my favorite from Buffalo Trace, but I think it's much better at a higher proof. I think that a lot of that also comes with the longer you drink bourbon, the more you can kind of pull some of those nuances out with the higher proof. But I think that this is a much better representation of the Blanton's flavor profile than when it's watered down. I feel the same way of like, there's a lot of people who say they like Basil Hayden's, and I'm like, oh, you just are not a big fan of bourbon, right?
I've never had a huge affinity for Basil Hayden's.
Yeah.
Like 70 proof bourbon is kind of
It's a
you
little
know,
too smooth.
No
So,
Basel.
yeah.
right. Right. So,
But this does, now that you say that, and if you've ever had Blantons, you know, kind of like there's those like sweet cherry notes, like all that. The sweetness really pronounces itself, but at a much higher proof, it's not the same beverage.
Not at all.
Yeah, not even
and
close.
it kind of tells you, like people ask us, we get a very, very common question in the bar, and that is, what's your favorite bourbon at this price point? And it could be any price point, right? So 20, 30, 50, 100, if you had this much to spend, the answers are different, but like the most common is 50, right? And I always tell people, Old Forester makes that Whiskey Row series, and there's a bunch of different versions of that expression, right? And there's like a 1870, a 1910, which is a bottled in bond, 1920, and the 1920 is 115 proof, and it's like $50 to $55 depending on where you get it. Always go to Total Wine if you want it the cheapest, right? Because they sell everything for a penny over or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. But that expression is incredible.
But do support your local liquor store.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Frankfurt Avenue Liquors. Shout
Old
out.
Town.
They're great.
Yeah. Frankfurt Avenue Liquors. And then what is it? The Wine Rack also.
Yes, the Wine Rack's great.
Clifton's got a great, and they both have great bourbon selections. But that being said, that expression, $50, it's fantastic. 115 proof, like it's fantastic. And who knows if they'll keep it around forever, but it shoots above its weight.
And so, whose grandmother did you steal that from? Is that what the law says?
Not mine. Not
Okay,
mine.
not David. Okay.
Yeah, there's
Just checking.
yeah.
But
Gotta take care of
my
David's
grandma did gift me recently. She said, summer's coming. You need to probably take a shower soon. So what she did give me was this brand new bottle. I've never seen it before, but it was Head and Shoulders. Except instead of like an Irish Spring or like a rugged, it's a bourbon scented Head and Shoulders bottle.
That's nice.
That does exist now on shelves. Head and Shoulders makes a bourbon scented 2-in-1 shampoo and body wash. So
I'll also point out, only to the people on our Patreon, that this is melting the plastic glass that I poured it in. You guys can maybe get a little. The high people buy the people. We don't have any customers that make spirits around here, clearly, because that would be illegal. But if we did, sometimes they might come back in and complain that the hydrometer test tube that they bought melted.
Well, you
know that if you want a proofing mechanism, is it melting the plastic cup that you poured in?
well, this is personally my favorite thing on the table.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's great. Thank you for sharing this with us,
Of course,
too. This
absolutely.
is that's truly something special.
Yeah. And, I would say that, when you go to a bourbon bar now in Kentucky, look for those. A lot of them have vintage spirits. There's a new one that opened called Neat that's in the Highlands. Owen and those guys there really know their stuff. And if you want something from the crazy thing is you can go in there and buy something from the 60s or from the 70s and get something in there, get an ounce pour instead of 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces and find something in a price range that's relatively palatable to be literally tasting history. Kentucky is one of the only states in the country where you can literally taste vintage spirits and history of, because a lot,
true.
There's so much difference when you think about that. Like Elijah Craig bottled in the 80s versus Elijah Craig bottled today. Well, they don't even have a 12-year age statement on it anymore. So it's not even 12 years old anymore. But back in the 80s, when bourbon wasn't a boom, they were dumping much older stuff than 12 years old. They just weren't changing the label. So you might have an Elijah Craig that had 17-year-old juice in it, whereas opposed to now you've got not 12 years old anymore.
And just to nerd out even a little more on that,
completely different.
Even the barley has changed. Even the actual crops have changed. We promote things that have higher enzymatic content. The malting process has changed completely. We get much more efficient diastatic. It just means you can change the starches into sugars much more easily and much more efficiently. Definitely bourbon now does not taste what it tasted like.
Yeah, even the barrels, the wood in the barrels is different.
Well, yeah, even the coopering process is different.
The wood is younger.
Yeah,
the grain in the staves is not as tight.
I've seen my house was built in 1917, and I look at my 2x4s versus the 2x4s you buy at Home Depot today.
And they're not even 2x4 anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Are we all old curmudgeons right now?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, not David.
Yeah, not David.
Not me.
Yeah. David's been playing Pokemon Go this whole time. If you guys haven't noticed.
Hey, you got to get to level 40 somehow.
No, but it's true. Actually, a few years back, Buffalo Trace did something called, they did a project where they had this collection and they actually crowdsourced info and they cut trees into 3 different parts and they made cooperage out of like
That's
the
awesome.
low end of the tree,
Yeah.
the middle end of the tree, the high end of the tree. And then they're like, oh, well, we'll put it in different parts of the warehouse. We'll use different humidity. So Buffalo Trace is the one who knew, well, if you got bottle 157, they knew on the back end what that meant. And then they crowdsourced people to rate the bottles. And then out of the couple hundred different, all of the
Is
little
that the
analytics-
CYPB?
No.
Is it the Warehouse X or
No. It was just a project that they did.
Yeah.
Data
And,
mining.
yeah, it was it's incredible the stuff
Yeah.
that they were able to find out. And it's great because who doesn't want to be part of something like that, right? You go
And
and
just like as a
rate
huge
your bourbon.
nerd, like
Yeah.
It
that,
sounds like you want to be part of that.
I had several of those bottles. And I did rate them.
I appreciate that from the nerd standpoint, and that's something I appreciate so much about you guys. Like when I come into Gallant Fox, if I try one of your all's beers, if usually one of you guys are there, but if not, like the bar staff will tell me the story that went into this beer, how you guys made it. If it's a staple, it's like, hey, this is straight out of Clifton. This is like the IPA that our community helped us build. If it's something kind of novel or if it's a bourbon, like you guys are there for that, and you can only take that so far. Seeing it scale into Mount Washington, I'm very excited about. I think it's going to be amazing, and I'm here for it. I'm saying I want that chili dog coney that you guys showed me a picture of earlier.
Oh, it was delicious.
Saturday, we're having our first ever pop-up. So if anybody out there is listening who is interested in our food, our very first ever food that we're making.
To that point, this will be released on Monday.
So
And
you-
I'm sure
you
it
missed
will have
And it was
been
delicious.
It will have been a great event.
Was delicious.
That's the past participle, whatever I learned in Latin that one time.
120 proof, huh? Whew.
But that being said, anytime after Monday, do you have anything that you'd like to plug before we close out? Anything going on in the next couple of weeks that you're
So,
excited about? Releases?
Actually, every week from now until when Mount Washington opens, we're going to be trying to do as many weeks as possible, either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, a pop-up with our new chef, Matt Trimmer, and featuring one dog and one gourmet hot dog, one gourmet smash burger, because that's what our menu is primarily focused around out there. So this week, obviously, is the blue cheeseburger and the coney dog made with our beer cheese and some house-made chili.
You had me a blue cheeseburger.
Oh, so good. We got to try them today as I set up promo photos. Yeah. But every week we're going to pick a different burger and a different dog and feature them. So check out our Facebook page or Instagram page. And then also, find our beer around town at different bars and different restaurants that have now started to carry our beer. Yeah.
And if you're out there this is my shout out. If you're out there drinking it at like a non-brewery restaurant bar and they don't have any Louisville beer on tap, say, do you guys have anything local?
Absolutely.
Could you guys get anything local on tap? Because that's how people will buy.
Mm-hmm. Makes our conversation easier when
Yeah.
we go in. So yeah, it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, my plug is completely different than all of your all's. So Patrick mentioned Gin. If you've never been into the Highlands to visit Darling's Gin Bar, that is a new concept for Louisville. It's a super cool
It's delicious.
little like intimate place to go. They have some ridiculous like there was an aquavit cocktail, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not a gin aficionado by any means, but I'm straight up looking at the bartender like, what the hell are you doing with aquavit? And he's like, no, it works, man, it works, and it did. So I trust them. I trust them. I look forward to going back there. If you've never stopped in, it's right.
I have
next
not
to
been there,
Elm.
but I will be looking into it.
Yeah.
it sounds cool.
And while you're there, next door at Perfect Day Cat Cafe,
Yeah, that's a great shout out.
we now have their beer on tap is made by Gallant Fox. It's called the Foxy Kitty. It is a fruited blonde ale. They will start selling T-shirts with the logo very soon. We'll have a shout out to us and shout out to them. But both Perfect Day Cat Cafe and the PG&J's Dog Bar, the Foxy Hound Peanut Butter Brown. We're now doing beers for both of those spots. So check it out if you're at the gin bar.
Pick a side, Gallant Fox. Cats or dogs?
Or
Yeah.
foxes.
Yeah,
God,
what
for
about the
fuck's
foxes?
sake.
Yeah, for fuck's sake. Yeah, that's a great way to end this. For fuck's sake, everyone.
Michael, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, if you haven't done it yet, Kenobi on Disney Plus is very good. They just released the 3rd episode today. So if you're into the whole Star Wars thing,
Ordinarily, I'd call you a nerd, but
I'd
I
watch
do like
that.
I do like Ewan McGregor.
okay, thanks for that.
I'm all about some Star Wars.
Yeah, well, Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries on Disney Plus now, and it's great. It brings me back to a place where I enjoy escaping the world. So please check it out.
Are you going to plug something non-beer related?
Beer though.
Drink beer.
Beer's preferred. I just didn't have anything else. So.
I'd like to plug Gallant Fox's new pale ale that's going to be coming out this Friday. Is freaking delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. What is it?
I don't know that we have a name for it yet.
Sunset?
Well, so I always code name the beers when I
Plug.
develop a recipe, and then sometimes Roger changes them. This one went in as Sunset Pale Ale. It's 100% mosaic, dry hopped with a little mosaic. Dry hopped at the exact same moment that yeast was added. It came out phenomenally.
So you're a believer in the biotransformation process?
I don't know, but I think it really
I don't know.
I feel the
But
same
the
way.
flavor is really
I feel the
good.
same way.
This pale ale is something
I
special.
don't know
I'm
what you're
really
saying,
excited
but
about
yeah,
it.
that's what's going on.
Hey, if people said that about religion, I would be more inclined to go.
Just throwing it out there. But if you want to call it like Mosaic Molar or something, like feel free to.
Okay. All right. Maybe. This is the
Tessellation.
beer namer, the official beer namer here.
All right, well, we'll be out to try that. That sounds amazing.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging on for another week. Thank you for Gallant Fox hanging on and coming on and sharing your love with us.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to everybody on our Patreon for helping us with the new audio equipment. We're still
Are you thanking people after I thank people?
yeah. We're still but we're
you're
gonna
the
fight
host.
now? Are we gonna fight now?
Yeah, fuck you.
We're
I've been
still,
fucking with you the whole fucking
beta
podcast.
test.
And this
Sing
is
it.
the part where the audio just kind of
Yeah, to fade out. Thank you
like,
guys. Take us out, David. Do we have any more stories? Water?
It's over. I fucking ended it.